Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on this hot, sultry, tiring August, not even August, July 14th. It feels like August because it's so hot. Meeting of the Public Works and Finance Committee. Thanks everyone for being here today. Excited to kick things off. And I know it's going to be a shock, but I think we'll start with the approval of the June 9th minutes.
Perfect.
I'm so surprised.
I know. I like to surprise people like that.
I approve too.
Let's approve them and let's put them on consent agenda. All right, Sarah Decker, you're up for disbursement report.
Yes. So looking at the accounts payable report for month ending June 30, 2025, total expenditures were $3,632,764. Our largest expenditure was payroll. That was $1,375,180. And I don't actually have too many outliers to point out today. We did have a professional services payment for our water and sewer rate study, which was $25,836.60. We had a payment towards our Moscow City Shop project for $147,053.26. We had a payment for our beta phase meters for $64,437.97.
Will you remind me what those are?
Our
Beta phase meters.
It's our new meters that are being
So that's part of the advanced metering infrastructure
Excellent.
program.
Yep.
Zener is the supplier, and the beta is just, we went through an alpha and then beta before full deployment. So
Cool. Thank you.
just the next round of meter purchases.
Thanks.
And then we had a payment for our slurry seal project for $297,242.69 and a professional services payment for our Palouse Mall lift station for $23,383.05.
Great.
You answered all my questions. Thank you.
Bryce, anything from you?
Nope.
I don't have anything else either. Recommend approval?
Yep.
And I'm a consent.
Great.
We're good with that?
Mhm.
Okay, just making sure. Excellent. And Sarah, I think, are you up again?
I am.
You are for the third quarter financial report.
Yes. So if you look at our third quarter financial report, at this point in time, we should be hovering somewhere around 75%. Majority of our budget is within that range until you get to capital. Capital always looks a lot lower, and that's because it's capital season right now, and also because majority of capital is within fund balance, which, as you know, fourth quarter, we will dial that in and show you the balances without that included. A couple of things to note, our transfers all look very small and our operations are a little bit higher. And that is because the the internal service charges that were general fund, those charges used to be through transfers. We've made that change in 25. That was after the budget was made.
Yep.
It is budgeted in 26, but for this, it makes those look a little strange.
Okay.
So that's just where the change is there. In the water fund, our debt service, you'll see the 134.87%. That's because we had our second DEQ loan come online in 25,
Sure.
which we received those numbers after budget. So that's that. And then in the sewer fund, operations is 114.8%. That is a little higher because we have higher than expected GFC charges collected on behalf of the Southeast Sewer District. Which-
GFC, I'm sorry.
The
General facilities charge. So it's essentially your buy-in to the system is your connection fee.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, no problem. And then the other piece of that is exactly what I just explained. The internal service charges are now taken out of there versus transfers.
Is that easier for you all?
It's really,
Does it make a
it
difference?
doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
It's the same in and out. It's just in a different line.
Gotcha.
So, and the rest of it is as it should be. Total revenues for the city is 40%, 40.23%, and expenses 34.5. But again, that plays largely into the fund balance.
Any questions?
Now, which one of these do we sign? The disbursement report? Is that the electronic
Correct.
signature? Okay, so did we skip that part? Do we need to approve that or do we?
No, it's moving on to the full council and being approved on consent agenda now. So we've
Perfect.
modified that practice to have the full council authorize and approve that rather than
Okay.
just half the council
Yeah, that
approving
makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Good pickup though.
Yeah, I just remembered it, you know.
Bryce, how about from you?
No, I appreciate the thorough
Yep.
explanations here and especially to work through those higher percentages. So I appreciate that.
And recommend for approval? Yes.
Yes.
Consent?
Right on, sister.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I hope that was the hardest part of your day.
Yep. Thanks.
And now we have the Lola Clyde Park Development Grant Award Agreement. Lisa, there you are. Come on up. This is fun.
Good afternoon.
Hi
Hi.
there.
Oh, Luke, I'm sorry. You had
No.
dropped to the other line on my thing here. Sorry about that.
Did you must have printed yours when I did because I was.
I just grabbed one off the wall and yeah, I wasn't reading. I didn't have my full reading on.
So I was just going to go back and do a little review. Because
Yeah.
some folks weren't here and it's been a while since we submitted this application.
Thank you.
So this park has been through quite a few years of work. In 1996, the city purchased the property with the condition that it would be named after the owner's grandmother, Lola Clyde. And in 2005, the reconstruction of the creek to be established as a channel. And then 2006, the University of Idaho students installed the pedestrian bridge. And if you remember, it was a big daylighting project with PCI and bringing the stream to where it is now. And then in 2015 and 16, Parks and Rec went through the public process of looking at Lola Clyde. And then there were 2 other parks and there were several community public meetings. And from that meeting, from Lola Clyde Park, this was just the initial kind of draft concept. We're in the early stages of this, and keep in mind that not all of this will come to fruition in my lifetime, probably. But this is a really cool picture of what the community came up with. And right now we've got the playground installed, and we're moving toward doing those frontage improvements because we need to follow our own guidelines in order to continue on with that development. In 2008, Parks and Rec had the sign dedication. And just a reminder that Lola Clyde is the grandmother of Teresa Little, the wife of our governor, Brad Little. In 2019, again, Parks and Rec went through a community process of choosing the type of playground equipment for it. And then in 22 and 23, we began preparation of this grant application. It takes quite a few years to get through land water conservation. So that was the initial kind of concept that was chosen, and then the actual playground. And we do want to share that it overmeets the accessibility requirements and is a park that has a lot of different features to it for those that need special accessibility. It's a really neat park for our community, and it has the new playground flooring on it. So this is what Lola Clyde looks like in present day. This is what present day rodeo looks like in the winter. And I love this picture because this was before we had to kind of make those frontage parking lot improvements so that people could park there and not on the grass. But the proposed project is 5.54 acres because it includes a little bit of our right of way from what was purchased previously. So we'll have the frontage improvements, parking on Polk and Rodeo, and then a paved internal shared use pathway. This is the exhibit that we submitted for the grant award. And this design element was created back in 2023. We're not exactly sure if everything on this map is going to be exactly as shown here, but we will meet the numbers that were awarded to us in our grant application. And I think Luke will share a little bit more with you about, as they're starting the design and survey process, what we're finding out.
Yeah, so our team has gone out and we've surveyed that field. So we've got a nice existing surface. Essentially the problems that we're trying to fix right now are how can we meet, the present day needs of this park and align that with the master plan that y'all saw a couple slides back. So one of the big things that we're missing out of this one is the fact that these frontage improvements are adding a lot of impervious pavement. And we are now required to treat that water. So still identifying what's the best solution for that. But that's kind of the plan right now, is once we have that figured out, Then we're going to look at things like where would a future bathroom go? How would we essentially make our job in the future easier with the placement of that bathroom with like sanitary requirements and stuff like that.
And to this, we had just the minimum ADA parking, but we will also have ADA parking on the rodeo side also. So this is just, we had to have a specific map that we submitted to them that had all these different requirements in it. So just showing you that. This was in your packet and I made this a little too big, but you'll see the full award is, or the full total project cost is 1,168,000. Or excuse me, yes, 1,168,000. So it's a 50% match, and the start date was actually 7/1. We have until 6/30/28 to complete it. And you'll see that the land water conservation federal share is in there, and then the match. So we will be doing quite a bit of in-kind match for the surveying and design and reporting. And so we're tracking all those hours carefully. Construction inspection. So the different categories, as long as we stay within 10% on each category, we're good. On the match side, that really doesn't matter. We can put in more cash than in kind. But this is just looking at what they required us to submit and where our in-kind match will come from. And this is the second half of that budget. Some of these numbers are probably different now than when we actually submitted, but just to give you the concept of what the budget looked like. This is a slide that we had from when we did our presentation to the Land Water Conservation Board in Boise, and that was back in early 24. So a percentage of what the costs were at that time with the improvements on rodeo being approximately 30,000, the or 30%, and the path 23, Polk Street parking 49, and then parking lot improvements in addition to the just the actual frontage and the lighting. I think we'll have 2 to 3 lights in there at this point. And then we had storm drainage and pathway in there. So that brought us to here today with our project in front of you. And I wanted to thank Bill for the nice press release that was put out on Thursday. Got a lot of good feedback on that. I saw some people at Farmers Market on Saturday that were hooting and tooting, and so I'm really excited. The first time that I don't even know if David was here. I think Roger was here. Anyone, Blanchard was the first time we actually submitted a grant on this for just the internal pathway through the Idaho Department of Parks and Rec. And that must have been 2010 or something. I don't know. Anyhow, so this is one of my long-lived files. So I'm really happy to be here today to ask your approval to give us permission to move forward.
I have a couple questions. None of them are like, then it's a no at all. It's more curiosity than anything. How far, when you're doing the improvements to rodeo, especially to put in the parking there, I mean, when I worked at PCI, it gets so mushy there. Like I've gotten like up to my literally hips in mud when you go over the side of the road. How is that going to be able to like widen that out and make it to where it just doesn't sink?
So the grant is paying for up to where the end of the parking spots are within the city. The city has a budget line item in there for paving a narrow roadway, and I
Okay.
think it's wide enough for 2 cars to pass.
Yeah, it's going to meet our standard for Collector Road, which is 28-foot cross section.
And then the parking lot is pushed out, like the parking lot's almost going into the park then, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And it's to answer your question on how we fix that. Kind of right now, we'll see if it works. My plan is to kind of tilt the parking like this and build it up a little bit.
Mhm.
So then that gives us more ability to capture the water and
Nice.
discharge it into the creek after treating it.
Because boy, it floods there.
Yeah.
No, that's great. It's been an exciting. In fact, I had lunch out there today because I wanted to take a look at it before we came here. And it's going to be really nice. I really like the big area. And I had those plans on my desk at PCI for years so people could come in and like pick what they wanted. We had a whole thing set up. And so it's really fun to see everything being implemented. And I like that it's also still there's a lot of open space too. I can see why this has been a fun project for you for so long. Where are you thinking about putting the restrooms? Do you have a solid spot yet?
If it was 100% up to me,
Yeah.
I would like it to be north of Rodeo.
Yeah.
Just that would allow for one couple pipes going south, and it would tie into an existing manhole at the
Mhm.
intersection, the northwest corner of the intersection of Polk and Rodeo. But that is,
I know. Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's nice to pick people's brains that actually have the plans and have ideas where it could go, even though they might not work. I just like to see how the thinking is, because I mean, that makes sense to me, but I know nothing about the underground part other than it's mushy.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's see, Luke has a baby under 6 months. So I said to him, the restroom can't be that far from the playground.
That's right.
So we're also looking at, what Parks and Rec thinks about how far we should have that
Yeah.
located, and finding that medium where it's cost effective and still meets the needs. So
And it looked like trees are going to be planted eventually someday down the line.
though there is landscape included in the frontage improvements on public.
Great.
We've done some tree
Front porch,
dedications
excuse
out there too.
Mhm.
I think I spoke at one of those.
There's a
Yeah,
few
you
smaller
did. I was
trees
there.
around the playground area. Yeah.
Great. That's it for me. So cool.
Having, in my prior life, having been in the economic development world, these were the most beautiful grants that they ever brought in front of you. But they are lifetime grants. And
Yes.
so I have to say, kudos. That's huge. It is absolutely huge to get this. And yes, that press release was nice, but my gratitude is way bigger than that press release. No, it is very, very important and quite an accomplishment. So pat yourself on the back. I do think the continuity there too with the land and water conservation, they like those projects over a lifetime. So stay on them, be friends with them. You continue to,
I will share that one of the requirements, and we talked about it when we submitted the application, is this property within the border of what we're seeing here will then be in perpetuity a park.
yes.
And we didn't see that to be a problem ever, but we have had some situations where Gormley Park and the lighting for the park and different things there were once a land water conservation fund. And we did meet with Kathy Muir and when she came up to look at Lola, and
She's wonderful.
we went over and looked at that, and she said, just make a request. We just want to, meet the community's needs. So, and they've seen the future development of it and they liked it. Yeah,
Yeah, Kathy is great. And I think she has that long view as well. So
she does. Yeah.
yeah, good.
So
Congratulations.
I've got a couple things. And yes, also very excited, but I do have a couple clarifying questions. Within the packet, there was a lot of mention about this Buy America initiative, and I'm wondering if that's going to be a challenge when you start kind of looking for some of that infrastructure, or kind of like within the climate that we're in. I know that there's definitely the focus to Buy America, but one of the stipulations here says all construction materials are manufactured in the United States. This means that all manufacturing processes for the construction material occurred in the United States. And I'm curious, how easy do you think that will be?
So we're used to purchasing lights under that
Okay.
requirement, and we only have maybe 3 light poles that we're going to put in.
Okay.
The only other steel,
Mhm.
and I'm guessing might be rebar, and I don't know if that meets the requirement of Buy America, but I think those would be the only things that would have a conflict with, and I think that the percentage, I don't know if rebar is considered steel.
I don't foresee any rebar because this path is all asphalt.
Okay.
And our paths do pretty well.
I'm not sure what we'll have if the sidewalk will require that, but I think it would be less than 1%. So we'll just
Great.
see.
Cool. I just wanted to ask because it was, that phrase, and there was a lot of stipulations throughout the packet referencing that. And so I wanted just a little bit of clarity on it. And then I think last question is just, so pending approval, what are the next steps?
So engineering is working on this is our preliminary design. And so now they have to fully design the project. So
Sweet.
Luke is, he's new to this game, so he's excited and
Fun.
rolling fast. So
Excited, especially with a young kiddo, and just kind of
It's,
like thinking,
it's pretty fun
thinking about this for
get
the
into some of
future.
these files and try to make it all work. So
part of the funding is in the capital projects for 26 and in 27. The press release stated, you know, that we do construction 27, depending upon, you know, if there's any fluctuation in the CIP that might be available, and if we could have the plans ready to go out to bid later this winter, early spring, there's a possibility, but we don't want to make that commitment that we could do in 26. And we do have to do it in a certain time of year. You know?
Yeah.
And it looks like it must be completed by the end of June of 2028.
So really, yeah, we have to do construction at the latest in 27 to be able to have time to close it out.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. I think all my questions are answered.
Great.
It's
I know.
exciting.
All right. Well, what should we do?
We should approve it.
Yeah, big time.
Big
I
time
agree.
approval.
Yeah.
We've been doing that Buy American thing, haven't we, since the last Trump administration?
Well, it's been in effect for a long period of time.
Yeah, I
As long
thought
as we're not
so.
dealing with a lot of electrical components, it's usually not much of a challenge. So this is mostly heavy civil, frontage, paving, curbing, walk. So that should not be a challenge on this project.
Where do we want it to go? Consent? Are you good with
Sure,
that?
yeah.
Is that all right, Bill?
As
Great.
cool as it is.
Yeah. No, I mean, because we're going to come back when more is going on and then we'll, you know, build it up. So
Give you an update
Yeah.
later. Yeah.
great.
Cool.
Deal.
Thank you both so much.
you.
Guys.
All right. Tyler Palmer, street banner policy update. This is riveting. I can't
You
wait.
guys, yeah, this is way more fun than a park, I promise.
That white blazer's
Actually,
pretty
You
fun
know,
too.
it's if it's as hot as Miami, I figured I could dress like
There you
Miami.
go. Yeah, you did a nice job.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna try and cover a fairly banal piece of city operations here, and do it in as fun a way as possible. What I've got for you this afternoon is the downtown banner policy and procedures update. The last time the council approved this policy was back in 2013.
Yep.
Since that time, we've just had a lot of shifts. We've had shifts in where we have banners, in the utilization of the banner program. And there's also been some case laws been established about where we're establishing certain uses within the city and what we need to do to make sure that we're on the right side of the law and that we're able to utilize that for its intended purpose with the banner program. And so we've got some updates for the city's banner program. You know, the city has long had a banner program. It's been around for a long, long time. And like a lot of city activities, it started pretty informal. And then over the years, it formalizes and kind of grows. And you had to add a little bit of complication. And so it's evolved over time. It's something that we have liked to have. There's a vibrancy that is added to having the downtown banners. There's also a cost associated with the downtown banners. And so it's something that just want to review some of the changes from the 2013 document so that the council can consider the updates that are being proposed. So these are just some of the real highlights here. It's not a public forum. That's what this policy really establishes, and that's part of the legalities that we're looking at. Just make sure that this banner space is restricted to government purpose and use for government communication. This is for us to be able to communicate with our residents. Formal banner use agreements are allowed with other governmental entities. We've had informal utilization by other governmental entities, particularly the University of Idaho, really in this case. We have some fixed locations that have been designated for the university on select poles throughout downtown. And what this allows is for the city to enter into agreements, specific agreements with other governmental entities. And it also stipulates that we would then, within that agreement, make sure that they're covering the cost for those services. It's a service the city's provided that we haven't always recuperated the cost for. And so just make sure that the city is being compensated or covering the costs associated with that. There are city designated event banner locations for light pole banners. And then there's new process and standards that to promote clarity, consistency, and legal compliance with the program.
Does this include the big sweeping things that go like the farmer's market that goes across the street?
There is one large banner that is included in this policy, and so there are the pole banners, and then there's the Main Street
That's the
large
one, yeah,
banner.
okay.
The two other banners that we have that go over the highways have specific agreements with ITD,
Okay.
and so those are already restricted by an agreement with the Idaho Transportation Department, and those are very specifically for farmers market use, and we can only have them out for a certain period of time, and there's a bunch of
Yeah.
specific stipulations, and so this applies to all of the pole banners that are within downtown that you can see on this map, as well as the one Main Street, Overstreet banner location, which is at Friendship Square in Maine. So some key differences from the 2013 policy. I've laid out here this, so obviously city events, city sponsored events. This is a difference. City sponsored events could be determined by the city administrator, city supervisor in the previous policy. Now that will be up to the city council to make that determination. Nonprofit events, free or paid, it used to just kind of be a free for all. Anybody could put in an application, and if it was open, we'd put it up. This, in order for any event to be posted that isn't a city or an inherently city sponsored event, they would have to come to the council and seek the city sponsorship
So
for the event.
To that end, Tyler, just because it's timely, with regards to like Rendezvous, would that fall into that
Yes.
category?
Yes,
right?
if Rendezvous wanted to be permitted for the banner, they would come to city council and make that request of city council. We looked at
Whereas in the past, they could have just.
they could make application and they could make payment. One of the things that we looked at was who was utilizing this and how much, and really the vast majority of the banner usage has been the city and the University of Idaho. We're really down to very few other events that have utilized the banner program.
Because I think the league puts it up for voting stuff.
The League of Women Voters has for
Yeah.
voting as a voting reminder. There were some others that at Randomwood, there's Plus Patchers that would sometimes
Quilt.
put one up.
Yeah, yeah.
They've kind of tailed off of late. And so really it's, those larger events.
What does inherently city-sponsored mean?
Oh, just like, our events. There are things that,
Like
that,
light up the
that,
night.
that we're doing, light up the night, farmer's market.
Okay, so what's the difference between that and city-sponsored events then?
A city-sponsored event would be an event that the council determines is going to be city-sponsored.
Can you give us an example? I don't.
So I think it's city events or city sponsored events are really the only two categories.
Yes.
There's no inherent sponsored event.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
but-
yep.
But those two things aren't different.
They are
A
different.
city event and a city sponsored event.
Correct.
Okay, how?
City event would be, we are the entity that is organizing and
Oh, okay.
responsible for the event. A city sponsored event would be some other entity that has asked the city's support to their event.
Okay.
Rendezvous would be considered a city sponsored
okay,
event,
okay.
correct?
Yeah.
Sorry to throw you off there.
No, that's great. No, that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that this is clear because you'll have things coming before you that you haven't in the past. And so I wanted this
Somebody
to be
will ask.
clear. And then governmental entities, as I indicated, that there would be a formal agreement with other governmental entities. And so, in particular, the University of Idaho will formalize that. And so with the application review, the initial review, it was in the previous, in the 2013 policy, it was city supervisor designee. In the new policy, it's public works director or designee. So I'll conduct the initial review and approval of these. Fee waiver authority used to sit with the city supervisor, and now that will sit with the city council.
What is the fee right now?
The large banner fee, I'd have to circle back to you on
okay.
that. I think
Nope,
it's
you're
like
good.
195.
About
It's
around 200.
and then there's a small banner
Mhm.
fee. There's a fee associated with small banner installation. The sponsor event definition wasn't defined before, and now the council will make that determination. And then the reserve event periods, we used to have when we opened it up, we had a period where we allowed the University of Idaho to be the first in line to make banner applications. Within this policy, we actually specifically call out the events for the University of Idaho that we will hold the banner for. Those and those are specifically called out within the policy. They include commencements, parents' weekends, parent and family weekends, homecoming, and there's
Jazz Fest,
and
maybe?
there's one other in there. Let me look.
So will you go back a slide, please? And promise I'm not the one trying to trip you up today, but
Jazz Fest.
so, yeah, Jazz Fest.
Mhm.
So the other community groups now used to be able to with conditions, but now they can't anymore.
They would need to apply to the city council, and the city council would have to determine if it was something that they wanted to sponsor.
So it's kind of another step for them.
But now it becomes a city-sponsored event then if we have a banner up.
If the council approves sponsorship by allowing that messaging to occur.
Mhm.
So
Okay, so it
And the-
automatically then it would become a community group and city-sponsored event because we would allow it.
Can Can I
If you-
offer an
if the-
example I'd like to work with? Like, so for instance, right, take like Cal Ripken baseball, right? And they wanted to put up a banner for their
Right.
opening weekend in
Right.
April, right? So under just using them as like an example, right, as an organization, can you walk us through what that would look like? Would that
And how
first
it
come
changes.
through Public Works or would it go straight through to
Well,
council?
they would make application and then we'll have a banner application. If they make application and it's not already a city event or one of the approved university events, other governmental events, then their direction they will be given is that needs to go to city council. That would be prepared as them making an application to city council.
Okay.
But
Then
we're
we-
not liable. Sorry, go ahead. Keep
No,
going.
then we say yes or no. And then it becomes a city-sponsored event?
Correct.
Are we liable for things
No.
then?
Do we have a monetary responsibility then at that point?
You do not. Your sponsorship can be just endorsing the event and allowing advertising of that event in the government limited speech space.
Okay.
So the primary issue is that, if the city creates a public forum by the use of these banners and allows, essentially regulation of speech has to be content neutral. If you allow anybody to advertise or have that opportunity for speech, you have to allow everybody to have that equal opportunity. And so there are a couple different cases specific to this question. And as we reviewed this, and it was partially in response to some banners that were being presented from the university that were very advertising focused and not community identity focused. And that really, those two things led us to try to evaluate this policy to make sure that we're not creating an open public forum by allowing anybody and everybody to advertise or to have their messaging displayed in these spaces. We do have the legal ability to restrict it for governmental purposes and for governmental uses. And so primarily that would be city events primarily only, or university governmental speech as we come to an agreement to allow the display of their banners as well. The city sponsor just creates, if there are those events that the council feels strongly that have community benefit and purpose, it creates that opportunity for the council to open the door to those events that you would wish to sponsor and to allow that advertising to occur in these spaces.
And there
But to
are
continue to keep it restricted to, you find that there's a nexus and a governmental purpose of that event to allow for that to be displayed underneath your governmental use umbrella.
And there are two tiers to that request, potentially two tiers to that request from council. So if under section 2F, so the council can determine that the event does, as Bill mentioned, meet that mission, and therefore they want to allow that. So they're sponsoring that message by allowing that to be displayed in that public venue. And then secondarily, the applicant could request a fee waiver, which previously that authority had sat with the city administrator. That now with this policy would sit with the council. And so in addition, they could also request a fee waiver, in which case then the city does have a fiscal contribution in the labor that would be contributed to that installation.
All right.
And correct me if I'm off base here, kind of, and I know that we're getting tripped up on the word sponsored.
Yeah. I
And
did
so
a little bit,
I'm thinking, would it be a fair equivalent to say city endorsed? Because sponsorship feels like it has that fiscal responsibility to it, but like,
I mean, I'm getting tripped up on other stuff too, but
Sure.
city sponsored, city endorsed, as long as, so I'm not an average intelligence person. I'm not saying if I'm smarter or dumber. But this is complicated for the community to understand. And I'm just trying to decide if it's needlessly complicated. Not making any judgments,
Yeah.
but this is going to be a lot for somebody to understand.
That their event has to be sponsored by the city in
Well,
order to be able
and
to
sponsored
utilize.
versus well, just kind of all of it. And there's two levels, and I just think that we need to communicate it very simply and clearly. And if we are basing it on some sort of case law or something, I think we need to be clear about why we're doing it, because it does feel like businesses don't have the opportunity anymore to do any of this.
But businesses never have. It's,
Didn't we have the ability to do it for a while, though? I mean, granted, they never took advantage
it's always
of it,
been,
but,
it's always
Always
been
been
community
nonprofit.
events.
and nonprofits.
But see, and that's the issue is if you cannot limit it to just nonprofit or community events, if you're going to create that forum, there has to be a nexus between the government. So we're saying this is going to be restricted governmental speech. It is not a public forum, and the government can use it for its government purposes. And that means your events, your messages, your identity communication. If you want to, and we anticipated there would be a desire for those historical events, like Rendezvous was a city event before it became its own entity,
Art walk and
that you would
all of those
you would
things.
create that opportunity for the council to review those on a case-by-case basis to determine whether you want to put that underneath your governmental speech umbrella. It's really just trying to create that control the utilizations of those space within a government purpose, but give you that flexibility that on a case-by-case basis, you can decide whether you wish to allow an event to advertise underneath that government purpose. I understand it's a little bit, the alternative is to say nothing other than city speech, city events, city messaging.
Isn't that kind of what we're saying?
You're opening the door to city-sponsored events.
Because if yeah, they're really if there's a desire not just to have an open venue where any messaging could go up in the downtown on the banners, then the two options are, as Bill indicated, it's just city stuff.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
It's done, governmental. The sponsorship allows for things like Rendezvous, or as the chamber, if they take over Art Walk in down the road, they apply for, then that would allow for the council to say, this is in alignment with our mission and with our government communication. Therefore, we will sponsor this. This comes under the umbrella of our government purpose and use, and we would allow it. And so this is what's being presented still allows the council that flexibility to make that determination if it's in alignment with the government purpose and use for which the venue's been created.
Okay. And I know I kind of asked this a moment ago, it goes through you first or somebody else if you're not able to make that determination, then would it come to Public Works first and then to council?
The process
Would stay the
is
same?
really, council has to make that decision.
Right,
So whether it goes
right.
committee or comes to council directly, the council as the body has to make that decision.
Right, okay.
So if time is available, it would come through committee review process and to the council for that determination.
So yeah, the ones that do not require specific council approval, the government, the us stuff, then I will just review,
Yeah.
approve, keep it going. The ones that do require that council approval will come
Goes
through
through
the
the
normal
process.
council processes.
So the University of Idaho has a list of X amount that they get. Do we know about that or do we?
So-
Yeah, we've reviewed, oh, sorry, go ahead, Bill. Did you-
Oh, you mean events or spaces or banner locations?
You were pointing. Did I miss something?
I was gonna say there's a map that identifies the designated locations for the University of Idaho.
Yellow ones.
Mhm.
Is that right?
And so that's existing in the 2013 policy, and this map is an updated map. So this isn't the 2013 map. This is the proposed map for this policy. It just adds the additional locations. And then with the approval of this policy, were the council to select to do so, we would then engage with the university to get a specific agreement in place for the university banners, much like many of the MOUs that we have with the university for parking and road maintenance and all of those. We just get a banner specific agreement in place with the University of Idaho.
I'm a little concerned about the potential of getting sued. If there's something they're like, "Yeah, we really don't want that as a banner, but if it meets governmental criteria, I am concerned about that.
Being sued by who?
Whoever wants to put it up and we say no as a council, we're like, yep, nope, don't want to do that one.
So are you concerned about requests for sponsorship?
If
We hate
If
that
the
word.
mountain lion group that is all in favor of crushing and killing dogs is like, we're having an event and we have this banner that we want to put across Main Street so people will come to our fundraiser. We're like, that's gruesome. We don't really want to do that.
So they'd
But
be-
it
they'd have
meets-
to come to, no, but that does not meet a governmental purpose.
Okay.
Again, if it's not a city event or just city governmental messaging, our communication, that's all that be permitted except for events the council chooses to sponsor.
And I guess it's that part.
So the
If we
question would be
choose not to
if they
sponsor
ask
it,
you
but we
to sponsor-
sponsored this one, I'm worried that we could get sued for not
So
sponsoring this one.
the ultimate conservative approach would just strike that section, strike F and just have it be government communication and no sponsor. So again, that was the trying to strike the balance between some
Yeah.
of those historical community events that have used those banners for advertising and provide the council with that discretion and determination about which ones you would wish to sponsor or not. The alternative would be we could eliminate the sponsorship. Well, and then it's city events and
City
it's
endorsed,
city communications.
whatever. I think that I'm hearing that we need more time sitting with this. So please, let's take it to the full,
Yeah.
let's full council. Let's not do consent with this.
Yeah.
I think that structure and some boundaries around this, that's kind of been the, downtown banner program. I remember, it is a little, that is hard to read. And I can see some of the yellows, but the downtown, I can't see any of the yellows. So,
Would you like to, I can blow up sections if you think that would be
well,
helpful or?
only if you're going to base like points of conversation on it. It's just difficult to read and.
Yeah, and it's included in the packet. It might be easier to look at on a computer
Yeah.
screen as
Yeah,
well.
'cause it's easier.
But really, I mean, the locations aren't, I think
It's
that.
less important.
I think it's less important. I think the
Yeah.
the question is if the council doesn't want to be placed in a position of approving sponsorships or not, which is what I kind of feel from is some discomfort surrounding, then that is really the fundamental question.
The sponsorship thing is hard to understand. Because it really isn't, it's almost an endorsement or an approval rather than a sponsorship. We're not doing anything. We're just allowing it in that corridor. So that is less sponsorship to me and more like tolerated. Sooner than, so I just think we need a little bit more time percolating with this one.
Yeah, I mean, and if it's the nomenclature, we could propose some alternate nomenclature, something like, permitted and then fees waived rather than sponsored
That's
and fee
reasonable.
waiver. Like we could play around with some nomenclature that we could recommend.
And I do think it's important to draw a closer connection with regards to, section 3F about what we've done with the university in the past, right? And why there's a specific carve out in this proposal for those, particularly for events that you've mentioned with regards to homecoming, fall and spring commencement, Jazz Fest, and parent weekends. Like specifically, I think it'll be helpful to see and draw a better connection as to why and how we want to continue potentially.
And I think if you're
I
thinking
agree,
about
Bryce.
university events, I think we can address that. That's all governmental speech, right? So that doesn't have to be a city-sponsored event. That could fall underneath the government event category. It's going to be the nonprofits that fall outside of that. It's the rendezvous
Yeah.
in the park. It's only a few. It's not a substantial number, but it's going to be those that I think you would have a more difficult time making that distinction between government and having to somehow put them underneath the city's sponsorship as underneath the umbrella speech.
And thus, going back to Sanders' question and concern, right, with regards to what we've done in the past with homecoming and everything with the university, right? Like we've established that, and also it does fit that governmental speech as opposed to the Mountain Lion Club, right? Is not.
I'm not concerned
I-
about the university.
I know, but I'm
No,
just
like,
yeah. But I'm
Why
just
do you like
saying-
Rendezvous and not the Mountain Lions?
Right, right. And I think that that's a fair question to bring up, but I think that we get out of that, or
Yeah.
we address that to an extent
Yeah.
by focusing on the university connection with it being governmental speech.
Well, and I think we do get into a little bit of a tight spot with governmental speak. There's a lot of governments, a lot of governmental entities that we maybe wouldn't necessarily endorse or approve or sponsor. So I just think we need some more conversation. Be ready.
And again, the term governmental speech is not, it doesn't open the door to any governmental institution or entity. It's our speech then. It's just not public forum. It is a government forum that we control that, if it's a public forum, even limited public forum, then you have to provide equal opportunity for everybody. If it's not a public forum, which is really the distinction we're trying to make here, then it can be controlled for governmental purposes and governmental speech.
How does Rendezvous, I'm not picking on Rendezvous, it's just that's what's coming up. We've talked about. How does that fit into the governmental speech then?
If it was a city-sponsored event, right?
But again,
the city
I
has a
mean-
role in it. I mean, the city waives fees for that event every year. You do not
Yeah.
see them because they are low dollar amounts, but the city already financially sponsors that event every year and has for 2 decades.
Ever since
Yeah.
it was a city event initially.
Yeah,
And then it was
yeah.
spun off
So
to a nonprofit.
We do sponsor it financially right now by waiving fees.
So I
Um,
understand that sponsorship. We don't do anything financially or anything like that. Sponsorship is not sponsorship at that point. It's approved, it's endorsed, whatever. Sponsorship in my mind, and again,
It's not just financial, but it can be other things of value, which this
conver-
would be the advertising would be essentially the item of value that the council is providing, the right to be able to advertise in that space.
The venue is the banner.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, okay.
now the venue's the street. Or the polls.
I think for me, when we come back to this, I think I'd like to hear from legal also.
Yeah,
Right? Because
this is
I'm getting
very
really hung up
confusing.
on the you like me, but you don't like me bit. Whether it's government or not. And I just want to make sure that,
And that's, there won't be a solution to that, right? If you want to if you want to have that flexibility, then you're going to have that flexibility and you can create criteria and guidelines. That might be something that would be worth exploring, but there won't be an explanation out of that. That's just either a discretion you wish to retain, but that discretion comes with some challenges, right? Or you could choose not to retain that discretion and limit the speech, and then you're not placed in that position.
that's where I'm my scales are like this, right? I mean, initially I'm like, yeah, I like when we have the banners up and it's great when you have the quilters and the League of Women Voters reminding you to vote. And, oh, I forgot this was this weekend. Great. But I also don't want people angry all the time.
And I think simple is best.
So
So what would you like? Would you like any revisions to the policy before it is brought back to the
I
council
don't think so. I'd like it
Nope.
presented to the council like this because
Agreed.
yeah, it's not bad. I'm not super negative on it. It's kind of coming across that way. But I think this has a potential to do a lot and to kind of escalate. And I don't want it just to be us. I want to hear everyone's thoughts. And
Definitely.
if anything else comes up, great. This shouldn't be a big deal, but I feel like it could be a big deal.
And given time and reading back through it again and blowing up the map on my screen and all of this thing may or may not help percolate this through. I may still have the same questions next Monday that I have now, or whenever it comes to us. I
Would this,
can't tell you what I
would this
would
committee
advise.
like to think about it a little bit longer and have it come back to committee before being advanced to council, or do you want to just move it on full council? Because that is an option.
Which, yeah.
I either want time to think about it and then bring it back to the committee or bring it to the vote.
I mean, are we at detriment? Are we on any sort of time crunch?
No, this is not super time sensitive. We have a functioning banner program.
I guess, Tyler, while you're addressing that, and you probably stated this at your intro, so I apologize, but what prompted this review in the first place?
There were a few different items. One, we've just added a lot of locations. And so
Okay.
we needed to come back through and review those locations. Two, there was some legal developments that prompted taking a look at this. And three, we'd had some applications that seemed to be out of alignment with what the intent of the program was. That, as Bill had mentioned, some that came through that really weren't tied to an event. It was just more advertising. And so then that really prompted the question. And so the confluence of all of those made it seem like it was time to review this policy and come back to the council.
And I think an interesting thing, Bill, I mean, to bring it back to this committee, there's a really good chance that Gina and Bryce won't be here because they're subbing in.
True.
Right? And so,
Well, that being said, then maybe it's best just take it to the whole.
Yeah, we can.
I think, yeah, I mean, if we were like the normal committee and always up here, I'd be like, yeah, why don't you bring it back to us one more time, except that,
Yeah, we're.
so how
admin
about if we
people.
bring it to council?
We can do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And for what it's worth, Tyler, I know this isn't in a park, but it's really fascinating, right? And I appreciate
Yeah.
your presentation. I appreciate you answering our quite philosophical questions here of getting down to semantics and also implications of the wording, the implementation here. And so I really appreciate the work that you're doing. That's not lost on us.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah.
that just there are some things we need to dissect a little bit
Oh,
more.
and just know, as staff, I mean, me and her team did a lot of work on this. Bill, but we're not emotionally tied to these things. This ultimately is a council policy, so we don't mind questions. You guys are the ones ultimately that end up having to answer to the community for it. And so, yeah, it's what it's for.
Great. Yeah, bring it to council. I'm interested to hear what everyone else has to say. I think it's smart that we're looking into it and moving this direction. There are just a couple speed bumps we need to get over.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Tyler.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order?
That's it for today.
I think we should adjourn.
I think so.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks all.
Thank you.